This week on Duderonomy, the Turtles and Shredder teach us all about the importance of good marketing and PR. I'm Dan.
And I'm Bryan.
So make sure to like, share, and subscribe as we discuss the return of the Shredder.
Deep breath. There's a lot to unpack in this one. Season 2 already, episode 1. We've blasted through the 5-part miniseries that was the piloted week-long celebration and launch of Ninja Turtles 87, the original animated series. And they call this the return of the Shredder. Dude's been gone like 5 minutes, Dan.
Yeah, it was like yesterday.
Yeah, not even. I think that was like they banished him in the morning, and by the afternoon he was getting itchy.
I feel like in the beginning of the episode almost does a good job of trying to establish the Turtles as being like kind of bored without the Shredder.
That's fair. I mean, we kind of see that in the opening of Ninja Turtles 2, the movie, Secret of the Ooze, where they're just like chilling at April's and don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, and like in this one, Donnie and Raph are really upset that they missed the muggers at the grocery store.
The muggers at the grocery store. Okay, so we're 3 seconds in, and we got some serious lore building here, but also 3 seconds in, and we have worst ninjas ever. They're out in trench coats in broad daylight. What the hell, guys?
Season 2, nothing changes.
There's a couple things that changed that are irrelevant, but yeah, still the worst ninjas ever.
Like they're in disguise, and they're terrible disguises, and then 20 seconds later, when the place obviously gets robbed, they immediately shed those disguises.
But is there ever any variation on the disguises? We always see the trench coats, and maybe sometimes like with the toy, there was like the trench coat and the weird like Mission Impossible mask.
Yeah, they do have the mask in the show at some point. We just haven't gotten up to that.
But they look nothing like that mask because that wouldn't fit over a plastic toy head. They look like Uncle Fester. I remember that. But otherwise, it's still trench coats, though.
Yeah, and they don't. I mean, the masks also don't look like real human faces, and they're all have the same face.
Yeah, I mean, not even close to like a human facsimile whatsoever, but who cares? Everyone's hit.
Like 3 kids in a trench coat could get by better than the Turtles.
But like everyone's hideous in this Turtles, so it kind of works.
It's true.
So when it comes to muggers in New York, is there an endless supply of tiny bats?
There has to be, right? This guy went to like the Irish Billy Club depot and bought all of their stock.
Is that a Billy Club? Is that really what that is? Because like you see, okay, so let's talk about British cops, right? And they've got the little bats and are like, come back here with the crumpets that you stole. But like bad guys in New York running around with tiny baseball bats that fit in their pockets. All I can think of, okay, so like when I was young, my grandpa would take me fishing. And when you caught a fish and got it into the boat, you had to put it out of its misery. So you club it. Sorry, vegans and vegetarians that might be listening. That's the reality of fishing. So you'd club it and put it in the live well so it's not wiggling around. It might not be dead, but it's at least brain dead at that point. Again, sorry. And that's what those remind me of. That was a long roundabout way to say that.
Yeah, I could totally see that. To me, they were like they looked like Billy Clubs to me, like the short sort of like exactly like the British police officer kind of thing. And I mean, you already like touched on this, but just the idea that they see these 2 turtles, they immediately throw their only weapons at them, but don't worry because they have more right on their backs, like under their jacket.
He pulls it out of his friggin' pocket. Yeah, endless supply. They're like batarangs. Like New York muggers and Ninja Turtles have like the batarang. The cashier with the quintessential quote,
"Will that be paper or plastic?"
I thought that was a great takeaway, and it was definitely the first time I'd ever heard that trope in my life, and it made me start to question how many tropes were introduced to me by Ninja Turtles just covering the cliches, because we already talked about a couple episodes ago, or maybe it was last episode, I forget, whenever it was last episode, Krang gets his body and goes full Frankenstein.
Yeah, or I mean like just the newsroom scene that's about to come up. Oh my God, so many.
Every cliche. Somebody watched Superman the movie the night before and then drew it. I did want to make some comments on the animation in this season. It does look like they settled on a studio and there's a little more consistency, which can be appreciated, and people are a little less hideous.
I want to say it's brighter, or that like the coloring is more clear in this episode than some of the other like season 1 episodes.
It definitely like the first season felt a little brown, which is, pretty 80s in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one feels a little more TV. I don't know. I think that's the right word.
I also wanted to bring up that the voices in the grocery store, the muggers and the clerk, are voiced by the same actors as Raf Donnie and April, respectively.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Which is kind of funny when like April is talking to the clerk when she comes in to do the reporting on it, because she's essentially just talking to herself, and it like, man, great voice acting that like you could pretty much tell they're the same person, but they are distinctly different characters.
Great voice acting. Like, we cannot sing the praises of this cast enough. One thing I took away from the moment we're talking about right now in the grocery store when the muggers, the turtles encounter each other, Leo wears an undershirt.
Yeah.
Thought that was neat.
It was just like one of those little element of disguise where he's like, well, humans wear shirts, so I guess I'll wear one.
You really think it's like, well, people do this, so I'll do a people.
Right. It's like, it's so weird because it's just like a button up. Like I just love the idea of just Leo going to like the big and tall shop and buying the largest button up that he could find, because it doesn't even like go past his upper torso.
You think they take those trench coats into other stores? Like, they have to buy groceries, right?
Yeah.
They always wonder, how do the turtles eat and survive? Like, what, do they eat trash out of the dumpster? Do they just get pizza sent down the sewer grate like in the movie? Or do they like scrounge cash and figure out a way to like make, properly purchase goods and services? But do you think they go up buying clothes?
I think in this iteration, they absolutely do, because they are the worst ninjas.
All right, I'll give you that.
Like, going to the Goodwill would make the most sense in like reality, or like having April be like, hey, could you just like go to Goodwill, go to Salvation Army, buy us a bunch of like old big clothes for dirt cheap.
That makes more sense.
In this one, I fully expect that they like go to Macy's on 34th.
I would pay to see that episode. Notes. Throw bats. More bats. Grocery store stocked terribly. There's toilet paper near the produce, which is up by the register. There's milk on a shelf and not in the freezer, and completely unsafe stocking and stacking of products with the orange juice that inevitably gets used as a trap against one of the muggers. Also, what the hell's wrong with the oranges? Because they're red. Also, why does it come in tin cans? Is it concentrate? That's supposed to be frozen. Shut down this Trader Joe's now.
How about like the big stack of eggs?
That was next. Yeah, unrefrigerated eggs.
Apparently, this this grocery store in Manhattan serves everything in the British or European style.
Yeah, that don't fly, especially not in the 80s with unpasteurized eggs.
They fly. They take them right from the farm. None of this like removing of the gel-like substance that keeps them fresh.
Yeah, no, that's not okay. Not okay, Ninja Turtles. Not okay, Ed Koch, New York.
This is also like, I got personally frustrated with the Michael Bay movies because they were like super strong and more akin to like superheroes in it. But in the first season and in episodes like this, they're doing superhuman shit all the time. Like, Mikey's got Superman's ice breath, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, that was a little much. I never thought they were overblown. I mean, well, okay, so let's take it back. Season 1, episode 4, Donatello rips a metal panel off the side of a van with his bare hands. Yeah, I take it back.
Yeah, but this one is like, he throws the nunchuck at the display. The goon dodges it, and he's like, ha, you missed. And Mikey's like, did I? And then he just blows the whole stack over. Like, I'm sorry, you knocked over one can. You didn't make that unstable.
He's also like 15 feet away. Was it just that delicately stacked? Again, shut down this Trader Joe's. They're unfit to serve the populace.
Yeah.
So they bash the goons, wrap them up in a banner, and they're going to cash out because they're good boys.
Yep.
And the cashier says, it's on
It's on the house.
Radical.
And I wish I could get free food for beating up two mooks.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be like, I mean, this is the 80s. There could still be mom and pop grocery stores. Hasn't been struck by food deserts quite yet. So maybe she owns the place and she's just like, you know what? Just take it. You two are cool lizards or something. I don't know.
That was a full cart, though. Like, that's great and generous. And you do see stuff like that out in the wild, but usually not that much. To be fair, I mean, if they saved my life, I'd buy them their fucking groceries.
There's exactly 4 people in that grocery store and 2 of them were trying to rob you. There's no way that what the turtles had in their cart wasn't equivalent to what you were going to get robbed.
It's a very good point. That being said, they stole that fucking shopping cart.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't included, guys.
Here's a new little facet that I kind of brushed over in the first season, but in observation, I kind of have to like readdress retroactively. The mic pack that April carries around when she's doing her reporting, when she shows up at the grocery store, they report on the robbery and they talk about salamanders, alligators, whatever it is. And April's got like what I only assume is a transmitter for her microphone slung over her shoulder like a purse.
Yeah.
And it's the size of a boombox sitting on her hip. That is not something I have ever witnessed before. So we both work in like media production to various degrees. And I've done a lot of news over my time. And we always ran mics straight, hard line to the camera. There was no reason not to. Occasionally you got a wireless mic, but most of the time they're not worth the hassle when you're just doing a single.
Yeah.
Like just doing a stand-up like her, you got to worry about police RF and interference and all other stuff. So it's usually just like run an XLR cable. So that big thing on her hip, I'm sitting there going like, what the hell?
So I was wondering, like, because I'm not as familiar with broadcast as you are, familiar of what broadcast in like the 80s and 90s was like. What is that, like a transmitter that goes right to the van that they have outside?
I can only assume so. That must be. I want to go, like, I didn't get a chance after watching it tonight, but I want to go back and like look at remote broadcast equipment from the 80s and 90s because now I'm really fascinated.
Yeah, and it's weird too because like on one hand you could be like, guys, it's just a cartoon. Like they probably just drew it so that they didn't have to draw the cable running outside to like every little location that April's in with your crew. But on the other hand, like there's some deep real lore in this show.
But on the other hand, why draw the box at all? Like,
right.
If you don't care about kids paying attention to detail, just give her a microphone in her hand. Nobody's going to care.
Right.
I thought that was kind of a neat little tidbit as someone, you know, with that background. Like, I don't think 90% of the viewing audience really gives a crap.
Definitely going to have to look that up. I didn't even notice it.
I couldn't help. And I was just like, what the hell is she wearing? So turtles equal alligators equal salamanders. I think the cashier's racist. We cut to Dimension X, which is good for them. They finally grew ground. There's ground there now. And not just floating in the ether.
Right. Before it was just gravity.
Bless their hearts. Introduce Whiny Shredder at his peak.
It starts.
Krang, I implore you, send me back.
Send me back! Send me back! I'm tired of your endless whining.
And he gets it. He does get back to Earth.
Squeaky wheel.
Only to immediately whine again because he got no resources.
He's Luke Skywalker in this season. He really is. Weird dynamic shift too there in the relationship between Krang and Shredder now that they're on Krang's home turf. I remember watching this show when I was younger and thinking like, well, Krang's the big boss, but isn't it supposed to be Shredder? Like even in my vague childish knowledge of the comics and other source material, like Shredder's the dude.
Yeah.
Why is Krang the boss now? It's like, oh, he's got a weird like BDSM kink.
See, I think it's like when we were watching the first season, we were like, where does Shredder get all of this technological equipment? And the reason he's like so bound to Krang is because dude can't do shit by himself.
Yeah.
He's with Krang for the resources. And when Krang cuts him off, he immediately like, here's supposed to be this like big guy. And instead of like attacking the turtles or Splinter or anything, he immediately goes to find more cronies. He's just like, I can't do anything by myself. I got to take over this dojo that we'll talk about. I gotta go find Baxter Stockman again. He's like completely helpless on his own.
Which is the opposite of like the comics Shredder, who was just like, everybody stand down, I got this.
Right. It's like Shredder in the comics leads, and in like most other iterations, because pretty much nobody could stop him.
Yeah, I mean, he demonstrates it here and there. Like even when he finally gets teleported back to Earth and he lands in the park, we'll talk a little bit more about this scene in a minute.
Yeah.
Like a homeboy chops a tree with his hand.
Yep. Not even his claws.
He's not weak. So it's just like, bro, do you have like self-esteem issues?
Yes. Right. He has to in this show.
I wish they would have explored it a little bit more. It would have been touching.
The other thing I love from this scene is when Bebop and Rocksteady can't go through the portal, and Krang is, because I enjoy making both people and animals suffer, and you are both.
That is about as evil as you get in like 1980s. That's like Skeletor level evil.
That is like such mustache twirling evil.
Spite evil. I do want to say that the Shredder communicator is far inferior to the Turtle communicator.
Oh, for sure.
But it does kind of remind me of the old PKE meter from the Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Or it looks like do you remember when we were in like middle school and they had all of those like chunky portable video
like a Tiger Electronic game?
Not a game, but like, oh, hey, you could put in this mini disc and watch one episode of your favorite show.
Oh, hit clips. Hit clips.
Exactly.
I know hit clips. Do you know hit clips?
Hit it! Coming at you right between the ears is Hit Clips. Music to get you grooving.
You shouldn't.
Shredder knew hit clips. He was ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that does kind of, now that you pointed it out, I can't unsee it. All right, smash cut. We're back to Channel 6, but we're in the main lobby, and Irma is apparently working reception. I always kind of wondered what Irma's role was. When I look back at her, she was just kind of there.
Yeah.
Was she a producer, a director? I remember seeing her with headphones on occasionally, but apparently she works reception. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to like, is she kind of an everything girl? Is she the intern? What's going on with her? Does she have an arc? Does she get promoted to producer eventually? That'd be amazing.
I guess we'll find out, because right now she is just a stereotypical single woman in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Whose only desire is to find a man. Any man. No, doesn't matter their quality.
Little known fact, Irma was actually the inspiration for Sex in the City.
Really?
No.
I mean, that would be like the most shocking thing.
That'd be pretty incredible. My big takeaway from this scene, though, is if you look very closely at how Channel 6 News is laid out, there's no news bullpen. There's no studio. There's just closed offices, and for one, April has a corner office like Mae Williams over at Channel 5.
Did you know that Mae Williams over at Channel 5 has her own office?
You can have an office.
Yeah, well, she has her own corner office.
You can have a corner office.
Well, but she's also one of the highest paid field reporters in New York City.
Now you are.
There we go.
I thought that was a nice deep lore cut.
Yeah, she had to get at least equivalent to her animated counterpart.
Right? But legitimately, her office is in the corner, right next to Burns.
That is really funny, considering like how poorly treated she is at this job.
Right? Because like in season 1, she was a nobody, kind of like trying to claw her way up, and now she's got an office, got a closed door office. Good for her. Good for her.
I think the thing that this scene signaled to me, which I mean, like it's kind of true for the full episode, but like it feels like the cast just explodes for this.
Yeah, that's definitely in my notes in the next couple of lines is like supporting characters start to happen.
Like I know we've seen Byrne and Tiffany, we've seen Vernon before, but they just had like one and done kind of lines. They were more of like just set dressing or setups to be like, oh, April needs a story. Here's her boss. Move on. But now
they only had names so that they could refer to them in the first person.
Yeah, but now there's like whole scenes in this newsroom, and we get the whole Crooked Ninja Turtle gang, and like all like, you know, oh, Baxter's back, and it just feels like, okay, the first season was like the trial period. Now they got signed. All right, let's crank out those characters so we can crank out those toys.
Yeah, and I mean they gave Vernon characterization, like he went from just being part of the crew who is afraid of bad guys. Go figure, to like a weaselly, wormy kind of piece of shit. And then Irma just being horny.
Yep.
I guess that's a characterization.
And it's like, even in Vernon and Tiffany, like, it's such an interesting dynamic because
Burn.
Burn. Sorry. Yeah. Burn and Tiffany. I want to be like, there's got to be like some sexual harassment lawsuit. No, she's just like legitimately his girlfriend.
Legitimately might be a strong word. Well, so like, okay,
she can still be his girlfriend, and he is definitely cheating on his wife.
I don't think they ever established he's like married or anything. He's just a sleazebag. So like, he comes out of the door that says president, like as in president of the network. Not the case. That is, he's not fulfilling the role that the president would fulfill on a regular news broadcast operation. He's the program director or the news director, right?
He's Perry White.
He's greenlighting stories. He's building narratives, like, which is something that he's big overreach on. But hey, Ronald Reagan. So yeah, like he's the program director. That being said, he's also a Perry White facsimile, but more J. Jonah Jameson facsimile, right? To the point of like using the terminology
a menace.
Yeah.
So then his little bimbo enters, and then I go, oh wait, no, he's none of those. He's Harvey Weinstein.
It's funny because like Tiffany doesn't work there, right?
There's no reason for her to be there.
She's just there all the time.
In this episode, yeah, it was just to really strongly build that Byrne is a bad boss and a bad person and kind of a shitbag.
Well, she was in the background,
shallow.
She was in season 1 too, so it wasn't just this episode that she was there.
She was.
They established this relationship like very early on. That like, yep, he is he's a complete sleaze. He's only doing anything in his job to impress this woman.
I mean, that's an old cliche too.
Absolutely.
Definitely one of those that does. Wait, we've talked about this before. Things that age in Ninja Turtles. Not this.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, like just so much of this newsroom is the most cliche,
and also, but also like the least cliche, because I'm like, where's like people running around with papers and answering phones and shit? They're not doing any news. They're waiting for April to get off her ass.
It hits almost no newsroom cliches, but all of like the character cliches of like
the bad office cliches.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, the sleazy boss, the suck up, the one track mind character.
You're being way too nice to Irma. All right, moving on. Back to the sewer. It's not hard to find. Ninja's not just of the body, but of the mind. Why do they eat pizza like sandwiches? I'm asking. That's not a rhetorical. What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, that is very confusing.
It's not the first time or the only time they do this.
Like, more than the fact that they are like 5 foot tall turtles, the fact that they don't know how to eat a New York slice of pizza would get them kicked out of the city.
I mean, we've seen them eat slices before. It happens in the movies. It happens in this show. It happens everywhere. So you can't really get the headcanon that like, oh, their big clunky 3 fingers can help them eat big circles.
Maybe they're just frozen.
We defunct this in Coming Out of Their Shells tour because they showed that they are able to modify an electric bass to accommodate Ninja Turtle fingers. They should be able to eat with them too.
As you know, they only have 3 fingers. So building their instruments, it was difficult. Donatello built guitars with only 3 strings. So he can do some amazing stuff on them. And of course, they're all on MIDI pickups in their set. But Leonardo plays a 1-string bass, which is great. Gets amazing sounds out of it. It's fretless. So
yeah, that is true. My headcanon just now is that those are actually frozen pizzas, and they're just eating them straight out of the freezer.
I mean, that makes sense for Mikey when he's stoned, because I've been there. But also, they show them prepping. At least they show Michelangelo like prepping. Those pizzas are cooked, baby.
And in the first season, they've showed slices that are like dripping because, they're so fresh, or they're out of the, like they're hot. These are just like static discs.
They're Frisbees. Yeah, you got that right. We got a couple of animation errors coming up in the cutaway that shows them walking along, that shows them eating at the table. I'm sorry. We got Raph with the Leo voice, and then immediately talks to himself, which I thought is a great cherry on top. And then Splinter frantically calls. And here's a thought. He calls out in pain and terror, right? And he calls out for Leonardo first. You think the other guys get jealous? Especially Raph?
I mean, that's always been a thing, right? That like Leo was Splinter's favorite.
Because everyone loves the O? Yeah. But do you think that's part of why Raphael hates Leo so much?
Could be. The thing that struck me was that you're a father. You have 4 children. You named them all really long Italian names, and then something terrible happens, and you go Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello in order, their full names
instead of just that. That's why in later versions of the show, my sons,
children, right, like my sons, come here. It's like he doesn't want to do that unless they're like in trouble.
I mean, this is definitive nitpicking. But yeah, it is kind of funny. All the good ones end in O. We're cutting to Central Park. There is a couple of muggers hanging out. They are low on their quota.
But they are prolific. The one guy says we haven't mugged anybody for a whole half hour.
This sure is a slow day. We ain't mugged anybody for a whole half hour.
I mean, they got bills to pay too.
It's just like, wow, you are active.
I just really love like the casual crime depicted in 1980s New York. It is hands down the most appreciated thing I can find in like retroactively looking at how the Ninja Turtles were set in an environment. It's just like, yeah, those are the muggers that hang out at the park. Are you going to stop them?
Nope.
Nah, it's their gig.
I also like that in this show. It is such like a straight-laced 80s 90s perspective where like all the crooks, all the muggers are just punks.
Yeah, they listen to the Sex Pistols once and then fuck society.
They're like, oh man, this guy's got a mohawk and some set of jewelry, must be a mugger. Hey, here's a guy with a flock of seagulls haircut.
Oh yeah, that's in my notes to because they don't have character names. It's just Mr. Clean and Flock of Seagulls. So Shredder flops out of the portal and he's all disoriented. He's perfect personification of the flawed villain. Mr. Clean and Flock of Seagulls confront. He's alone when he calls for help and disappointed that he doesn't have Bebop, Rocksteady, or the Foot Army. My biggest wait, what? Was when he does this and Mr. Clean looks at him and he says, and I quote, that old trick?
Forget it, pal. It won't work.
So how many interdimensional warlords has Baldy faced off against?
Oh, yeah. Just the oh, yeah, I've got friends right around the corner. But this is the thing that keeps coming back in this show, that the perspective of the writers of New York City is that it's the weirdest place on earth.
Jaded.
Anything can happen and nobody cares. Like these 2 muggers are in the middle of the park and a guy with blades shooting out of his body drops out of the sky and they're like, yeah, let's mug that guy.
I mean, okay, so we talked about this. Shredder handles himself. He chops down a tree branch, knocks the dudes. They throw money at him and run away because they're so scared of the purple pajamas. Without the army.
Yep. I said tough guy talks big, but Shredder rolls a nat 20 on his intimidations check.
Perfect. But also when he calls Krang and he's like, where's my shit, bro? And Krang just goes, you will get no more help from me. Does Krang have a withholding kink? Again, leaning into this whole new power dynamic in the Shredder Krang bedroom.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is not the spin that I thought of, but that's a good one.
All right, so next up, we got Shredder going out recruiting door to door like a Jehovah's Witness. And he ends up at the Slash for Cash dojo, which is coincidentally ran by a man named Smash.
It's great. No notes.
None. If you got questions about it, he spells it out for you. I'm Smash, the leader of the Slash for Cash dojo. Okay.
Yep. All right.
Shredder turns and Summer Sausages a punching bag in front of him, each heart out Captain America. And then everybody falls to their knees because clearly the guy with big knives is a threat.
Yep. Once again, Shredder rolls a nat 20 on his intimidation check.
He's nailing it.
Also, we already know that this dojo has to be bad guys because one of the kids has a mohawk. So,
oh, yes.
The punks, that means they're muggers. It's only a matter of time.
That almost makes you want to backpedal and reformat this entire podcast to just be find the punk mohawks to indicate who's going to be a bad guy. That needs to be like a recurring observation for us. Because you're right. Everybody who has a mohawk, clearly a villain. Something I observed, we cut over to an external wide shot of Channel 6 trying to catch up with April and Burn again. But Channel 6 looks different. I think this is the new established matte painting that they use for the remainder of the series, where it looks more like it's legitimate Midtown, like almost Times Square-ish, rather than like season 1. It kind of looked almost like Flatiron.
Yeah, it was definitely supposed to be the Flatiron in season 1.
So they got an upgrade.
They moved the whole studio.
I just speaking as someone who used to work in Times Square, that fucking sucks, bro.
Worst place to have to navigate.
We got Byrne forcing the narrative of conspiracy, which is in my notes. I scratched out Harvey Weinstein and adjusted to Rupert Murdoch.
It is crazy how like some of the stuff is like, oh no, was this like a foretelling what would happen to us today?
Oh, Simpsons did it first, but Turtles did it firster. And then we get the introduction of the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang, one of the most underappreciated and forgotten villain lineups, I feel like, from the 87 cartoon. We kind of see a little homage to that in the 2012 series with the Pulverizer, the kid who ends up becoming Mutagen Man. But we never really see somebody try to impersonate the Turtles again, because one and only, that shit would never work in any plot outside of the 80s cartoons where they forgive how everything looks.
I love so much about this montage. I love that they announced themselves. I love that the plan was to, like, Shredder comes back from Dimension X and he's like, I'm going to get even with the Turtles. I'm going to make them look bad.
He's got a point.
Like, he doesn't have to force them out of hiding. He's been to their lair. They didn't move. He knows where to find them.
Which is another important part later on in this episode. But yeah, the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang, they're the OGs. They are fearless. They do not care. And they somehow work.
It's hilarious. It's great. It's such a great idea for what is already a ludicrous concept. But they have business cards and there's a phone number. Like, if you're going to impersonate the worst ninjas in the world, you have to be the worst criminals in the world.
And they commit to the character, and I can respect that. That being said, cosplay?
Oh, we absolutely should.
Yeah, I think we should. I also like that they all have red masks, which I feel like is the most subtlest way that the 87 cartoon could like wink at the Mirage, like source material, without, getting FCC slammed.
Yeah. Oh man, I love this so much. I love that they go back to the grocery store and it's obviously the same woman. And you were saying before that, like, oh man, I think she's being a little bit racist, but that was actually just set up for this scene.
That's true.
Because she couldn't recognize the Turtles when they saved her. So of course she can't tell the difference between a bunch of guys with paper bags over their heads.
Naturally. They're at a loss for a good glasses joke there, I feel. And also during the montage, Smash kicks through a safe. And last time we checked, he's a human.
Yep. So
the Turtles are effed.
Set him up as a real threat. And boy, does that not pay off.
He doesn't do anything in the final fight. Everybody else fights and he just kind of like chickens out.
These are the biggest jumps.
Good Lord. I do like that in the midst of this, Shredder has to talk to Krang and like divulge his big plan of like, I'm going to defame my enemies. And Krang's
This'll take too long.
That's stupid. But he still is polite enough to say goodbye. You catch that?
Yeah.
I actually stopped and rewound to confirm that Krang is like, goodbye. Instead of just like slamming the phone down.
Oh my God. He's right though. This is the worst plan. This is too slow of a burn for a guy who's so set on vengeance.
Oh, you're right. You're right. But it was still just an interesting dynamic between the two. Like Krang has clearly taken on the Dom role. Shredder's the sub. I wouldn't be surprised if they peg. Like, for him to be that polite on a phone call, I thought was nice. Then we got Baxter Stockman. He's in a sanatorium.
Good day to you, sir.
One of my favorite tropes and cliches is that the person in the nut house thinks he's Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yep.
I have a feeling that that characterization may change in near coming years, but we'll leave the politics out of this. But I thought that was
It's just one of those things that like there's not a single kid that got that joke.
no. But as I see that joke repeated again and again and again, and every other IP that I've appreciated since I was a turd, it's interesting. It's another one to add to the like Ninja Turtles introduced me to this trope too.
You know what I love the most about this setup, like where the episode is going?
Where
It makes no sense at all. Like everything about this is like, oh man, Baxter's not really crazy. They just put him in a sanatorium because like, well, he's talking about giant turtles and all this different stuff, but he doesn't really deserve to be there because we, the audience, know that the turtles are real. Meanwhile, this guy is looking out of a window and he sees a drill and he's like, I can catch rats with that.
also, like, the entire episode is predicated on the premise that the turtles are TV notorious for good and bad reasons.
Yep.
And somebody doesn't believe Baxter Stockman, so they put him in the nut house.
Yep.
Inconsistent.
Doesn't deserve to be there, but he's also still very crazy.
He's definitely crazy, and he's also definitely a simp when he falls at Shredder's feet like that.
And there's no explanation either. They're just like, I see this drill outside my cell every day. That's going to be the ultimate rat catcher. And he says, when I'm finished redesigning this thing, not a rat in this city will be safe. He doesn't even use the drill. He just needed a car, and then he made a whole bunch of crazy attachments to it. We will talk about this because I am very obsessed with this plan.
Oh, I made notes on every arm that comes off that thing.
It's just like, I'm going to force the turtles to come up to clear their name by doing this whole Crooked Ninja Turtle thing. But in the meantime, I'm going to old lackey who's going to make a giant machine that's just going to drive through the sewer anyway.
One, Shredder has abandonment issues. That's crystal clear here. He's going back to old flames that burned him. Like, that's going back to a toxic ex. I mean, you could say that for both of them, really. Like, Shredder and Baxter Stockman, they should never have been together. Their romance is a farce. But anyways, cutting back to the Turtles, they realize that they are notorious criminals on the television. Raphael is quoted as saying, "Number one with a bullet."
Yep, took that note.
And then April shows up at Channel 6. She's warning the Turtles that she wants them to come there because they're going to be in trouble and to be non-conspicuous because they're actively being defamed. Look, you've seen it on TV. Everyone thinks that you're just bastards. Let's just try to keep a low profile. And the Turtles go, "Blimp time!"
Let's fly a blimp. And then oh my God, there's so many things in this moment. They fly a blimp into Midtown, toss a grappling hook inside. April is able to hold the whole weight of the blimp from flying away. And then they
Thank you. More importantly, the bodies of these dense-ass Ninja Turtles with carapaces.
they slide into the building, and then the rope just disappears. What happens to this blimp?
My favorite part is that they go to all this effort of the zip line, and then when it's time to go, they just jump into the blimp. There's no physics in this show. There's no physics.
It's so funny.
Start of the downfall of the Ninja Turtle quality. I can't accept this. It's reprehensible. Their dissociation from reality.
An animation error where Raphael's mask just becomes Leonardo's.
I like that they all have cut and paste faces when they look at the TV. Like, it's literally like at one point there's a speaking line and no one's mouths are moving, and then they walk and it's just like 2 frames of animation, like Fat Albert, like and then suddenly there's 2 Leos, no Raphs, and everyone has the same facial expression. Like, somebody animated that in 2 minutes.
It's great faces, though. Like,
They're great faces.
Like the fact that it is so bad. Like, I want to discuss that and have that as like our profile picture for the show.
God damn it! I already went to all the trouble of that logo, and I was really proud of it. But you're right, that would be better. Then they get scared off by Byrne and his little airhead.
It's a sonic death ray.
It's a sonic death ray. Also, like, they don't shy away from this. They call him out. Like, why are you here so late?
Yup. Did you catch Johnny hitting on Tiffany as they leave?
What did he say? Something like "call me"?
He just says like,
Let's stay in touch.
like they all ignore her, and then he's just like the last one out. So he's just like, "Good day."
I mean, Donnie is the horny one Donnie and Mikey are the horny ones in the group. That's established. I don't know. Precarious at best. Either way, burn. So then we got Baxter nabbing Splinter.
Yep.
With his tooth tractor, which is going to be the canonized name going forward.
My exact note for this moment was, "Oh, okay," because it just goes from him saying, "I'm gonna make a rat catcher" to plowing through a sewer wall.
I mean, homeboy delivers. That's all I'm going to say. But also, like, this was an easy grab for him because the turtles didn't move.
Nope.
They had a bunch of autonomous robots invade their home, certainly ping them on Google Maps or whatever the hell there was in 1989, so that they're at least traceable. And they're just like, no one's ever going to come knocking again.
Well, they thought they had already dealt with Shredder. There was no need to move.
But they knew that Shredder didn't make the Mousers. They saw his name on the foot. Either way, reinforcing that they're in complete lack of effort to cover up their tracks makes them the worst ninjas ever. I think that might be the definitive move right there, is that they didn't pick up and move.
Yep.
Sitting ducks. Baxter's tooth tractor is so doofy, but I want to fight it in a video game. That's my next line written verbatim.
Oh man, they really should.
I feel like it's a lost opportunity.
We get I think we actually get a really good intro for the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang here. Hey, here's where the trail ends.
And here's where the trouble begins.
That was dope. That was friggin' Dirty Harry metal right there, man. But of course, it's at an abandoned construction site because that's where fights take place.
Yup.
This is definitely the beginning of the Turtles just like completely disregarding the weapons. I think at most we saw Michelangelo beat a barrel that was on top of some guy, so that kind of like pinched around him.
Yep.
But at no point is anyone clocked by a bow or stabbed by a sword.
Well, because these are humans. They're not the foot robots.
Exactly. And then thank God April's just like, I'm gonna go help because I don't know what we do without her in this scenario.
I like that April fully realizes that she's putting herself in trouble. Like, she's under no illusions that like this is not a good decision, but hey, they're my friends.
All right, you got me there. I like how Shredder, every time he captures somebody, he can't just like put him in a cell or something like that. He has to get into some weird BDSM like rope play stuff. I'm not wrong.
Before we move on to that scene, can we just talk about how the way they beat Smash is by spontaneously building stocks? Like, they weren't there.
Yeah.
They just like took a bunch of stuff from the construction site and were like Lego master builders for 20 seconds.
Yeah. I just kind of like brushed off that fight because it was really nothing all that notable. I feel like from here on out, a lot of fight scenes are kind of phoned in for Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
It definitely becomes more focused on the comedy.
I like that is going to be a thing for me to experience, because I don't remember like anything from here on out. Like, I remember the Crooked gang. I remember the like pizza aliens, which that's soon, right? I don't want to spoil anything for future, but
that is this season. Yes.
There's just a bunch of stuff now that like I don't remember anymore. So this is gonna be very exciting for me to see how this show evolves over time.
Well, this is where they start to roll in the Mutant of the Week, and that's fun and fine and everything. But yeah, their fights become rather tame.
Yeah.
Because of, bombs of America. All right. So we get the ambush, we get the fight. April's on her way. And then.
Oh, yeah. No, you're getting into it now. Please continue.
Well, all I have to say is the trap that Shredder lays is questionable for Splinter. It's a giant. It's a big fist dildo.
Yep.
There's not even a question about it. Like, somebody clearly drew that. Somebody traced it. That's a fist dildo. Like, you spend 2 minutes on the internet. You know what a fist dildo is.
So the turtles get there, and Splinter is tied up onto the wall, like you mentioned. Everything about this whole contraption, like he takes the time to train the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang to upset the media image of the Turtles. But then at the end, once he's captured Splinter, is like, oh, those were just fools I was using to occupy the Turtles so that I could get you. And it wasn't even so that like he could deal with Splinter while the Turtles were occupied. It's just so that he could set up an elaborate trap.
You have knives on your hand. You could have stabbed him in the throat. This is nothing but like further encouraging the weird sexual undertones that the creators of the Ninja Turtles had. Not kink shaming, just observing in retrospect.
And then the Turtles get there and they're like, it's a rope. It leads to a big fucking fist.
I mean, when they unveiled the battering ram Grand, that was dope. That was metal. That was a big wolf head thing that's meant to take down doors. This is a dildo fist.
Oh, man. That's right. Your master is about to become history.
It must weigh a ton of tons or whatever the hell Michelangelo says.
A megaton.
Megaton, yeah. But my favorite still, after all of this, after inconsolable laughter that I had to pause the friggin' episode for, Baxter Stockman shows up and just spazzes out all over everybody and ruins everything.
Just drives through the wall.
I'm here! And Shredder's like, hey!
Could you not?
Don't you just hate it when people drop in unannounced?
There is one animation thing I want to call out, since that's the thing we do on this show. And this isn't so much like an animation error where like the mask got mixed up or something like that. It's the scene where Michelangelo says,
looks like we've got us a massive problema.
and his eyes cannot stop moving.
There's another scene really close to that where no one has eyes. I didn't want to bring it up, but I did make a mental note of it because I thought it was just like, hey, they're just cutting corners. But yeah.
It's got to be that, but it was just so distracting. Like there's some cut corners things where you're like, okay, whatever, and you move by, but I couldn't stop watching his eyes moving all over the place.
Yeah, it looked like a magic 8-ball or something.
And then Baxter's driving the weird truck in a really weird way. He's like leaning out the side of the door window, even though there's no glass on this thing at all. Like, there's so much weird about this fight.
This fight doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. We got Baxter Tractor showing up going full Mad Max. We've got saw blades. We have one that's just an extension of a nunchuck.
Yep.
One of the arms, mind you, every arm has like a cartoony Mickey Mouse glove hand on the end of it. One of them's holding a fly swatter.
Foreshadowing.
The other one is just a catcher's mitt.
Oh, I missed that one.
But my favorite is the one that's just holding a fucking gun.
Yep. So I paused it in like multiple locations because I forgot to write down the like there's just like a hand like because the metal hand had a net in it that he threw.
Yep.
But I wrote a nunchuck, a boxing glove, a fly swatter, the metal hand with the net. What I thought, because the angle was like a bullet or like a work whistle, but it was just the gun.
Yeah, it looks like a noisy cricket from Men in Black.
Yeah. You have the saw blade. You have like a juicer. Like it's the one with the curved blades on it. It looks like you put fruit in it. I don't know what that is.
Baxter's cognitive downfall is very apparent in this episode. Goes from being a genius inventor to a like literal just Doc Brown with Adderall.
And then on top, there's like a projector.
Yes. for why? I don't know.
And then there's of course the big monster teeth.
Yeah, that worked once.
Yeah. And it wasn't even to like bite anything. It was just to trap Splinter in. And then he drives through the wall. He drives at the Turtles, and the Turtles destroy it pretty much immediately.
Yeah, they dispatched that thing in about 4 seconds. Also, just like to backtrack, if he tried to like tooth up, like bite Splinter into that cage thing, it would kill him because that's not how those motors, like those actuators, would work in a drill scenario. He wouldn't be able to stop it in time. He would pancake Splinter in that thing.
Oh my God. There's so much about this. Like, no wonder they didn't make this a toy.
I guess I would still play with it. But as we said, Turtles dispatch, Shredder runs off with his boyfriend slung over his shoulder.
Yep.
And then Byrne has a little bit of like integrity restored to him when April does her report and says the Turtles are heroes. And then the blonde bimbo is like, I hate turtles. And he's just like, well, she's telling the truth. I got to give him props.
Admit it. You love turtles, don't you?
No, baby. I hate turtles, honest.
Here's your lunch, boss. Let's see. You ordered the mock turtle soup. What? I knew you were a lousy turtle lover. Goodbye.
Yep.
You don't see that a lot.
There's just one thing I want to say about April and the crew when they get to the like whatever this is. This is the dojo. Like this warehouse?
I think she was just reporting from the like outside the construction scene where the fight happened.
Yeah. So she's like, they look inside the building from where Baxter like drove through several walls, and she goes, "It looks like World War XI."
You skipped a few because clearly they're just ranked by numerical value.
That's the question. Is this universe, has this universe had 10 world wars? Because it, like, how mild was your world wars, April? Because this is just like a couple holes in the wall and admittedly a giant fist, but beyond that, it's not that quality, right?
World War II electric boogaloo. I mean, she has to sensationalize for the sake of ratings.
It's true. She has a job to do. I have to give her that.
We end on a joke that does not age well, where a little bit of the boys will be boys as they fight over the woman who is clearly twice their age and a completely different species has winked at them, when in fact she just has a daddy fetish because she wants old man Splinter. And good on him, Hamato. Good on you.
Okay. This is my most ridiculous joke of the podcast so far. And for those of you who are learning more about me as you listen to this show, sometimes I like to take a jokey concept and build it out to its inevitable end. And sometimes it gets to be too much. So we'll see if Brian likes this or not. But you'll remember that in season 1, Shredder was able to communicate to the Turtles through like any visual medium.
Correct. He had TVs and cameras everywhere, apparently.
Right. And we were like, either he's able to target the Turtles or he's just broadcasting their secrets to the world, which, I mean, he should have just done that in the first place. What if all the TVs in this universe are actually video calls?
They're all two-way?
Yeah.
That would clear up a lot of confusion, honestly.
Because the Turtles fight over who April was winking at, and it's like a big thing. Like each of them have a thing to say, and it's like 20-30 seconds of this. And then there's like 10 seconds of straight up dead air on Channel 6 News, only for April to fucking answer them.
Yeah.
He's like, actually, I was talking about Splinter. What the hell is going on here?
Sacrificing all concept of disbelief for the sake of the fourth wall break.
I love it.
I love it too.
So yeah, that's me taking a concept and taking it way too far.
I mean, that's what podcasts are for, isn't it?
It's not my fault though. They did this. They wrote this. This is how the script came out. I just saw it.
True. All right, we've reached the end. We have gone through every finer detail that you could possibly overanalyze in this episode.
That's why you come here.
What is our takeaway in 2022 from this 1989 produced cartoon show? What is the lesson that we got to take from this?
You need good PR.
I think you're right. I think it did something about just like representation and identity and like making sure that you custom tailor your name. Like you're your own brand. I honestly think you're right, which is such a weird thing to put in a kid's show.
It's like the weirdest plot for episode 1 of season 2 to be like, my ultimate evil plan is to make the Turtles look bad. Like they're walking turtles. The whole first season was how like the world will never accept them. Like, job's done, Shredder.
I mean, I guess the only spin you could put on it is like a be true to yourself kind of optimism, but it's still grasping at straws.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go ahead and highlight our affirmation for today. We talk about the Turtles and their identity and the challenges that they had to overcome to make good on their name with the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang just souring everyone's public opinion of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So what I want to say to everyone today listening is you are loved for your crust, not just for your toppings.
Very nice. I hope you all take that one to heart. That's probably our best affirmation. I really got to give it to you on that one. Props, Brian.
I worked hard on that one for like 3 whole minutes.
So I really enjoyed this one. It's just like, I kept laughing at it, but I still think I want to give it like an excellent. I don't think it's up to the quality of the season 1 episodes we went through.
I agree 100%. It's definitely an excellent. It's finding its identity as a TV show, which unfortunately required a little bit of deviation from the Turtles' soul. But the writing is solid. The jokes are good. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, like, that's what you're looking for in this kind of a show.
It really is. And it definitely encouraged longevity. They started to do some serious lore building and roster building. We talked about all the supporting characters. So yeah, it's an excellent out of Cowabunga. Not perfect, but by no means bad.
Well, all right then. We'll see you next time.
Stay tubular, everybody.
Duderonomy is produced by Brian Van Gelder and me, Dan Spitaleri. Brian edits and mixes the show and also designed our show art. Our theme music is composed by Mario Sello Nuñez. You can hear more of his music on Spotify, which we've linked to in the show notes. Find us on Twitter at Duderonomy_TMNT and send email to deuteronomy.tmnt@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Cowabunga!